Startup India, you've literally made starting a company now something that people actually look forward to.
Startup India, actually I went to the Prime Minister and he made me do this presentation again and again.
And had that not happened, Paytm wouldn't have happened, Razorpay wouldn't have happened, Zomato wouldn't have happened, Ola wouldn't have happened.
And I picked up the best practices in the world. So everything in the world, there's nothing which has not been done. Pick up the best, do 15% better, you'll create a completely better India. We are just 156 startups. Today we have 170,000 startups.
If I'm a 21-year-old, right, and I want to set up something in tourism, there are a lot of people like that here. How do you suggest they start?
India is too large a country. It's bigger than 24 countries of Europe.
I came back from the UK just so that I could work here at NITI Aayog and with Sir, because I was totally inspired by his vision of transforming India.
You have had such an illustrious career, and more than the career, I think the impact that you've had, starting from Kerala, then being called to the center to lead tourism for the entire country, heading NITI Aayog after your retirement.
No, but I've had very, very tough times also in my life. I was suspended, I was kept without a posting for 10 months and I thought that was the end of my career.
Do you think India has done well as a tourist destination?
We need to bring tourism center stage. It is the fastest way to create jobs, and you need about 15 states of India to become champions of tourism. India's in the process of buying about 1,600 planes. 1,600 planes means you're going to have Indians flying out. You need international tourists to come into India.
Let's go back to Kerala for a second.
I'll take Kerala back to its root, build Kerala on completely new products. I'll differentiate Kerala from the rest of the world. And that is how we defined it as God's own country.
I want to talk about the book that's come up. How should one read this book? I'm going to make this a required reading in some of our courses.
Read it like a story book. It's not a technical book. It's a book for common person. But once you finish reading the book, I'm absolutely sure that you will become a startup entrepreneur.
So AI currently consumes more energy than Japan and some of the countries.
During the heat waves in London, Oracle and Google data centers got knocked offline. And today, can you imagine a world without AI? Your chat GPTs of the world will get stuck if your data centers get knocked out.
Our entire higher education budget is, I believe, 55,000 crores. That comes down to what? $6 billion essentially. So 6 billion was the budget of UPenn, where I went, of one university. We can be 30% cheaper, 60% cheaper. We can't be 99% cheaper.
I can give you schemes and schemes and schemes where government has provided the outlay and those schemes have failed.
You need so much capital to do any of these businesses. In India, while private equity is there and you can get a $100 million investment, but to get that first $100,000 investment, that's where the true gap is at. First of all, I would love to welcome Amitabh Kant, sir. So it's such a pleasure to have you. I met you, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, just after COVID, and I had the pleasure of visiting you at your home. And since then, it's been on my agenda that I have to bring you to campus. And finally, after 3-4 years, we are able to do it.
No, wonderful. And since I met you, you've grown younger and younger.
The white hair will not agree with that, but sir, you have had such an illustrious career. And more than the career, I think the impact that you've had, starting from Kerala, where you were a bureaucrat, the senior bureaucrat, then being called to the center to lead tourism for the entire country. And then thereafter heading NITI Aayog after your retirement, doing that for almost 6-8 years. And then thereafter, obviously managing the entire G20. That career, sir, there's so many highlights. And I was trying to figure out how I should do today's conversation.
No, but I've had very, very tough times also in my life.
So which one comes to your mind, the tough time? Let's start with that.
So, I was district collector of Calicut, where Vasco da Gama had landed and discovered India. And it was said that if Vasco da Gama was to come back, he'll find Calicut exactly as he had left it. It had narrow roads. There was a lot of encroachments in the heart of the city. There was all kind of reckless construction all over. So when I took over as collector, soon thereafter, I was also made, the municipal corporation was superseded and I was made the mayor of the city. And I took it as an opportunity to clean up the city. So I widened about 18 roads. I demolished over 500 odd construction. I created a new airport in Calicut. I widened the runway. I created a beautiful library because it was the heart of literacy in Kerala. Little did I realize that after 4 years, when I leave Calicut, one of the persons whose 5-star hotel I had broken would go on to become a minister, and I will suffer the consequences of that. So I was suspended. I was kept without a posting for 10 months, and I thought that was the end of my career, and I will, I should leave the service. So it was, a terrible period of my career.
So how long were you then without a posting?
I was without a posting for almost 11 months. As a punishment, posting made me Secretary Tourism. Nobody wanted to be Tourism Secretary in Kerala. Nobody had heard of Kerala. Everybody used to go to Rajasthan or go to Kashmir. Kerala was unknown. And they posted me as Secretary Tourism. The only destination known in Kerala at that point was Kovalam Beach, where one ITDC hotel existed. And because they used to get cheap charter flights, again, from illegal construction had come up. There used to be a 20 pounds a night destination. And I took that opportunity as Secretary Tourism to build Kerala as a tourism destination. So I became a startup secretary in many ways. I said I'll do things, I'll take Kerala back to its root. I will build Kerala on completely new products. I'll differentiate Kerala from the rest of the world. And I went back to unique products, and I actually closed the Kovalam Beach for a year to clean it up. It had a lot of garbage, filth. I completely closed it up.
Today it's so clean.
Yeah, I closed it up, cleaned it up. But in the meanwhile, I developed the backwaters of Kerala. I developed the Kerala houseboat. It used to be the rice boat of Kerala, in which rice used to be transported. And all the carpenters, that had stopped. And so all the carpenters, not a single nail is used on it. All the carpenters had gone away to Gulf. I brought them back. I developed the houseboat of Kerala. I brought back Ayurveda, not as a massage or a therapy, but as a regimen over 20 days, 15 days. So
I just did it.
Yeah. And then I said that I'll go back to the roots of Kerala. So Kalri Pet, which is the mother of all martial art, we promoted and marketed. We went back, nobody had heard of Kerala cuisine. So what you hear now, fish moili, stew, appam, all we brought that center stage. And we repackaged the Kerala art forms, brought them center stage. Kathakali, Mohiniyattam. And to my mind, it was important to and Kerala is one state where industry had miserably failed earlier. We branded it as God's own country.
Correct.
And we
said... What's the story of that?
So we said that it's very different from any other destination. It is truly God's own country. And if you go into the backwaters, that's the only place where within 2.5 hours you can move from a beach to a backwater, to a wildlife, to the mountains, to the tea estates. No other destination provides you this opportunity. And a very well-connected airport. Yeah, so, Kochi's, we had the Trivandrum airport, we developed the Cochin airport, we had the Calicut airport. So in a small strip of state, you had 3 different airports. But the important thing was that, we started inviting leading editors and journalists from all over the world. And we got the National Geographic editor to come in, and he wrote a beautiful piece saying he put Kerala as one of the 5 exotic destinations in the world, as one of the greatest exotic paradises of the world. And he said Kerala is unique not because of its natural beauty, but because of the high rate of literacy and the very high health standard. So when you look at the physical quality of life index, the human development index, and superimpose the beauty of backwaters, the Ayurveda, the art forms, the cultural art form, that makes it a unique experiential destination, which the world has never seen. And that is how we defined it as God's own country.
So it's one thing to develop the base, the fundamentals of the tourism, but it's also another thing to brand it, right? Because you also want these British, American, Europeans to come there. Right? And branding is really important. I know you've spoken about branding. So God's own country, and putting almost as much time on branding as you're doing on the fundamentals. It's an ideal business concept, right?
So my belief is that, before I'd done this, Haryana had been developed, and Haryana was developed as a state product. Guest houses by states, etc. My belief was that tourism in the long run can flourish only as a private sector activity. So we allowed entrepreneurs to grow and flourish. So if you go into the resorts, Kerala experience is unique because there are beautiful boutique resorts. What we did in the government is to provide the last mile connectivity. We developed the jetties. We ensured that there are good toilets. We ensured that there is world-class branding, and we build the brand of God's own country. That was our job. But the rest of it, as private sector enterprise, running of resorts, etc., was all done by the private sector. So it was a great combination of private-public partnership which made it happen. And then, something interesting happened. I was in my third year as Secretary Tourism, and then one fine day,
this is in the state still?
Yeah, I was still in Kerala. And one fine day, I got a call that the Principal Secretary to Prime Minister wants to talk to you. So I was a young officer, and actually, I said, why should the Principal Secretary to PM speak to me? So Mr. Brijesh Mishra was the Principal Secretary. He spoke to me, and he said that the Prime Minister wants to have a holiday in Kerala. And he doesn't want to meet any politician, any panchayat leader. You will make his itinerary for about 8 days, and you will look after him, you will take care of him, and the Prime Minister will spend 8 days, and he came and we spent time in Kumaragam, in the backwaters of Kerala.
This is Vajpayee?
Mr. Vajpayee came, and these were his Kumaragam musings. For 8 days I spent with him. And I took him into the backwaters, I took him into Ayurveda, made him experience Kerala in its unique cultural art forms, etc. And, one day we had taken him to the backwaters, and he saw the signages, he experienced the backwaters, he met the fisherwoman, the fishermen. He had a great experience. Then he came back, and over dinner he asked, Mr. Brijesh Mishra told him कि इस लड़के ने बहुत काम किया tourism में, इसको भारत सरकार में लाना चाहिए. So Mr. Vajpayee turned to me and he said, अमिताभ जी आपने अप्लाई किया भारत सरकार के लिए? तो I said, नहीं सर, मैंने तो नहीं किया है. He said, नहीं, बहुत अच्छा किया आपने नहीं अप्लाई किया. अगर आप अप्लाई करते तो ब्रजेश मिश्रा जी आपको टूरिज्म के बदले विमेन एंड चाइल्ड वेलफेयर में भेजते. So that was the end of the story. But I applied 1 year, 3 months later. I was selected to go to Finance Ministry. But when the file went to the Prime Minister, he changed it and posted me in tourism. Then I landed up here, and Mr. Jagmohan was my minister. As soon as I landed up here, within 20 days of that, the Twin Tower blast in New York happened. The war in Afghanistan started. There was an attack on our parliament, and there were travel advisories against India.
Correct.
And everybody, the hoteliers, we had very few hotels then, and they were performing to 10% occupancy. And everyone said that we need tourists to come in, and that was the time when Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore...
They were branding themselves.
No, they had all stopped their branding campaign. They all stopped it because there was a crisis, much like the crisis you're seeing in the Middle East now, in the Gulf region, similar kind of a crisis. And at the peak of that crisis, hoteliers were not getting tourists, etc. It was absolute standstill. At the peak of that crisis, we went to tour operators. We said, you sell packages in India. So they said, sir, there's no consumer demand. To revive the consumer demand, we launched the Incredible India campaign.
Yeah.
And it was again a 360-degree campaign. First time anybody had gone digital. We went to CNN, BBC, etc. And we built India as an incredible India. And the demand for India grew and grew and grew and grew. And it grew so much that there were no airports. So that's how the new airports in Mumbai,
Expanded
Bangalore,
Delhi, T3.
Hyderabad, Delhi, T3, all these new airports were brought in because you needed new infrastructure for these tourists to come in. And that's how really tourism took off.
So I have a question on the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Kerala for a second.
Yeah.
So what kind of bureaucrats end up doing well versus the ones that don't do as well? What are some of the characteristics of a successful bureaucrat that you have noticed over a period of time?
So my view is that bureaucrats who do well, first of all, they have a clear vision, that you need a vision that how you're going to transform that sector. I mean, when you leave that sector 3 years, 4 years, you must be very clear, I'm going to define this sector with these outcomes. So have clear outcomes, number one. Number two...
And how many have that, sir?
Very few have that. Number two, bureaucrats who do well always think ahead of time. You know, that's very important. So they use technology, they use cutting-edge tools, which are very important. Number three, I think the bureaucrats who do well have the capacity to build a good team. They don't work in solo, but they build a good team, particularly of young people. I mean, young people bring a lot of good ideas, fresh ideas. So you need a team of good people to join you, collaborate with you. And fourthly, the bureaucrats who do well are those who listen, get a good feedback from the public. And the public will then tell you that this road is dirty, or this needs to be done, or you need to focus more on education or health or whatever. And they respond on that public feedback. So your interconnect with the public is very, very important and critical. So 4 things: have outcomes, build a good team, vision, have positivity, build a very, very dynamic young team, and always take feedbacks.
So now you've worked with the Prime Minister Vajpayee, you worked with the Congress government,
Yeah.
you worked with Prime Minister Modi for so long, right?
Yeah.
In so many different capacities, and you've grown and grown and grown. So what have you learned about working with all of these people? How is it that, you know, you have such a great chemistry with everybody? Party this, doesn't matter.
No, I've had my downs. Don't think that I've had only up. You know, nobody in life should ever think that he's going to keep going up and up and up and up and up. You're going to have your downs. And everybody, whether it's business or government or politics, will have his down. The important thing is whether you will be able to ride that down period and go on. Don't ever lose your optimism. Don't ever lose hope. Don't ever lose positivity. And think ahead. That's important.
I mean, you converted a punishment posting
Yeah.
to a prize posting.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? To the extent that you were now
Yeah.
stuck with it for many more years.
No, now the tourism posting is a prize posting after that. So I think, you know, it's important that you're bound to have a down, but you should always think that you're going to never lose your positivity and optimism. Never.
So in those days when you were Secretary of Tourism at the center, I mean, India grew as a destination for sure, right? We all saw it, we all experienced it. Incredible India, I think, is not just used for tourism, is used in daily parlance. I think it's become a daily word that we use, right? And so, but since then, do you think India has done well as a tourist destination? Right now, I was just checking that top 10 tourist destinations of Asia.
India's potential is vast. India hasn't done well. India needs to do much more in terms of creating great experiences. You have the greatest heritage sites in the world. You have the finest archaeological sites. Several things. One is your ability to package from the point of a tourist is critical from the point of arrival to the point of departure. Your visa arrival entry must be seamless. If we claim ourselves to be the technology leaders of the world, our entry points must be seamless. We're still filling up too many forms even for tourist visas, too many forms. But my view is that it should all be digital. My view is that the experience at heritage sites must be very unique. My view is that we need to clean up our cities in terms of garbage, filth, etc. And lastly, my view is that we need to create many, many more stories about our destinations. Storytelling is an art. Yeah, and that's about branding. And lastly, my view is that we need to spend much more on brand marketing of India. Because India's in the process of buying about 1,600 planes.
What are you going to do with
No, 1,600 planes means that you're going to have Indians flying out. You'll have outbound tourism rather than inbound tourism. You need international tourists to come into India. It shouldn't be that we end up creating markets for Singapore, we create markets for Europe or for America. We need Americans, Europeans, and people from all over the world to come to India and experience the uniqueness of India.
I mean, it's like Goa versus Thailand, right? I mean, it's so much easier sometimes, I feel, to go from the Bangkok airport to the Bangkok city, than Goa airport to Goa city. Right? So how do you think about these small minor issues, these frictions?
So, one of the important things is that tourism is a state subject. And you need about 15 states of India to become champions of tourism. Much like Rajasthan is quite seamless. Once you get into Kashmir, few destinations are there, but you need to create many more in Kashmir. Kerala is quite seamless. My view is that Madhya Pradesh is a great, great tourism destination. Similarly, Karnataka is a great destination, it is badly packaged and marketed. The politician spends all his time thinking that he's going to do many other things, but he doesn't focus on tourism. We need to bring tourism center stage. It is the fastest way to create jobs. The greatest multiplier impact on jobs will come from tourism.
And foreign exchange.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think for Thailand, for Saudi Arabia, etc.
Exactly.
The highest source, the biggest source of foreign exchange is actually tourism.
Absolutely.
Right? And for us, it's not.
So no other country has the kind of civilization, the kind of history, the kind of archaeological sites, the uniqueness of its richness in terms of civilizational aspects. I mean, you go to a place like Hampi. It's unbelievable.
Totally.
It's a mind-boggling destination. But how many foreign tourists come there? So we need to promote and market it much more and much more effectively.
I went to Mathura a couple months ago, right next to Delhi. And so there was so much local tourism there. Buses and buses coming. I think someone told me 10,000 buses an hour enter Mathura, right? There's so much local tourism, but internationally, we have not been able to exploit. I think this.
So the rich, high-value tourism, India must become a very, very upmarket, high-value destination. India should be attracting tourists because people are looking for differentiation. The world has moved towards experiential destinations. People want to experience a destination, and there is no better experience than India in terms of history and civilization. We should be attracting tourists who are willing to pay you $2,500 a night.
Yeah. I mean, Dubai is doing it, Macau, I mean, these are city-states which are doing such a great job. I got to know that Istanbul actually is the most visited city now in the world, more than Paris and London.
Yeah, but Istanbul is history, it's civilization, it's experiences. So you need to build many more experiences.
And apparently there are more 5-star keys in just Dubai than all of India.
That's right. That's right.
So I think that ecosystem also we have.
Dubai builds about close to 35 big hotels every year. So that's what India needs to do. It needs to create that kind of infrastructure. It needs to improve urbanization. It needs to improve the quality of air. It needs to improve the roads and green them up.
And connect everything together, right? Like if you can give me a 7-day package.
The state governments must take the lead in making it seamless.
So do you think it being a state subject and not a central subject, that's slightly an issue?
Well, I think tourism essentially is, India is too large a country. It's bigger than 24 countries of Europe. So its center can't do everything. Tourism is about good governance. We must understand this. That if a state is well governed, you will attract tourism. And therefore, good governance is the key. And more states must govern themselves better.
And I think if the government just understands that this is such a great source of income, forget about everything else.
I think what the politicians must understand, they can't rise up in their career without creating jobs. fastest way to create jobs is tourism. Yeah.
And I mean, this is true for all the people who are watching. Do think about starting a business in tourism more than anything else. I think that's something we completely ignore.
Yeah.
So if I'm a 21-year-old, right, and I want to set up something in tourism, right, there are a lot of people like that here. How do you suggest they start? I mean, you're addressing them now.
No, huge opportunities, massive opportunity. Actually, one of my class friends from St. Stephen's College actually became India's finest guide. You know, he was a storyteller. His art was, imagine someone who's passed out of economics honors in St. Stephen's College became the finest guide. He was the most desired guide, the most expensive guide. The world was rooting for him because he was a great storyteller on India. Another friend of mine who's today the finest Buddhist guide. So on the Buddhist circuit, he's demanded by the wealthiest people from across the world. There are close friends of mine who have set up unique boutique resorts, 5 rooms, 6 rooms. They're charging $1,500 a night, but they've created an experience around it. They started with one resort of 5 rooms. They've gone on to expand into 30 resorts with 5 rooms, 6 rooms. Look at a great story like CGH Earth. They've created experiences around Kerala. So you need to think out of the box and create great experiences.
And you don't need huge capital. I mean, you don't have to create a hotel. That's not the only way to get into tourism.
No, not at all.
Experiences, Airbnbs, etc.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now let's move on from tourism to NITI Aayog. I think that was the next big phase of your life.
Yeah.
So first of all, I feel nobody understands truly what the NITI Aayog is responsible for.
The next phase of my life was as Secretary Industries, where I did Startup India.
Startup India and ease of doing business.
And Make in India.
So let's talk about that. Start with that. Yeah. How was that? You worked with the Prime Minister very closely on that.
Yeah.
How was that experience, sir?
Wonderful. It was very unique because, the Prime Minister has just taken over as the Prime Minister, and secretaries, we were all making our presentation as pretty early. And, I was amongst the first few secretaries, and when he saw my presentation, he said, industries was not looking after ease of doing business, it was the finance ministry. He said, you take charge and you get responsible for, India was 146th on the World Bank ease of doing business. And he said, you make India jump up.
Yeah.
So
you brought it to 63, I believe.
But to get to 63, I had to scrap a lot of rules, regulation, procedures act. So the first year, we said you digitized, then EPFO and all of them, they digitized, but they kept the physical process on also. The mindset was that you've digitized, but the paperwork also must continue. And actually, India lost position rather than improved position, because the World Bank said that you have digitized, but you're making the applicant do the same process again. So we had to really whip ourselves against all of them to make it, to remove all paperwork. And then to work with states, to work with customs, to work with income tax. I mean, it was a rigorous nightmare, but we improved within a period of 2.5 years. We made India jump up a lot of positions on ease of doing business. It was a huge jump. And my view is that if the World Bank had continued with this ease of doing business, India would have continued to do very well. Yeah. We brought in the GST because of that. We brought in the insolvency and bankruptcy code. Otherwise bankruptcy code would have never come. We brought in the Real Estate Regulation Act because of that. And many things happened in India. PM was determined that India must, he's basically a person who believes in free enterprise. Right. So he believes in unleashing the vast potential of India through private sector. And therefore, India would greatly gain out of that.
You were like a huge weapon in his arsenal to get this done. And so was it easy I heard somewhere that 1800 laws had to be scrapped essentially.
No, it was very tough. It's been one of the toughest things I've done because it's not about doing yourself. It's about convincing everybody down the line. So if you're trying to convince the custom guy, the below guy, the top guy, everybody in the hierarchy must understand that everybody's mindset. Imagine for the last 65 years in your country, everybody has moved from a British Raj to a licensed Raj. So everybody's grown up on leftism, and everybody's grown up on socialism, and everybody's grown on controls.
That's how they've been trained. The
Yeah,
bureaucrats
that's the
are trained
mindset
like that.
is
That's the mindset.
controls. Now suddenly you say, leave this control, leave this paperwork, leave this digitize. There should be no human intervention. It was very, very tough. So from below to the top, changing it was a change of mindset. Increasingly, the bureaucrats in India, their mindset is getting changed that private sector must create wealth.
Earlier, it was that private sector is all thieves and chore, essentially. I think that was the mindset. I think that's completely changed. Startup India, I think you've literally made starting a company now something that people actually look forward to. Earlier, it was completely bastized.
So, Startup India, actually, I went to the Prime Minister and he made me do this presentation again and again. He's quite a perfectionist in that way. So he made me do 3-4 rounds, and then he said, there were factory laws applying to startups. There were labor laws. We had just 156 startups. Today we have 170,000 startups. So through a process, we eliminated all the factory laws, all the labor laws. Otherwise, the inspectors would have gone on every startup's office and home. So we eliminated all that. That was necessary. And that is why we had to do a special definition of startups. India had to do that because India's, when you talk to somebody from Silicon Valley, he doesn't understand that there was a lot of constraint because of existing laws, and we had to eliminate all of them to be able to do that. And that's how the startup movement grew. But the great thing was that the Startup India movement grew, and when we did the Startup India launch, we had some of the finest entrepreneurs from across the world here who had done some unique work. But the Startup India also converged with this uniqueness of digital India, that everybody had a digital identity. You had 550 million bank accounts. You had, the mobile number and the digital identity had been integrated with the bank account. So you had fast payment booming.
And had that not happened, Paytm wouldn't have happened, Razorpay wouldn't have happened, Zomato wouldn't have happened, Ola wouldn't have happened.
So what happened as a consequence of that you had, PhonePe started competing with Google Pay. Paytm started competing with PayPal or Amazon and Pay in the marketplace. But you had another set of startups, MobiKwik, Pine Labs, etc., who started doing credit on the payment history. And then you had another set of startups, Zerodha, Grow, Upstock. All of them took stock market to Tier 2, Tier 3 cities. And then you had another set of startups, GoDigit, Acco. Insurance. So you are today doing insurance, credit, stock market, fast payment, all within Bonds, 30 seconds.
Fixed deposits.
30 seconds to 1 minute transaction.
And fastest in the world.
Yeah, when I was in Kerala, I took my insurance policy. It used to take me 9 months of paperwork. We do it in less than a minute now. So this is a different generation altogether.
I think India is also now exporting its UPI technology, etc. I'm very excited. I saw a huge billboard in Dubai when I landed that UPI is now available in UAE.
No, even in Paris or in France, in Singapore, many, many places from where you can do instantaneous debit credit.
Sir, I honestly feel had this movement not been started in 2014 by yourself and the Prime Minister, I doubt all of what we are doing today, all of Shark Tank and startups and everything that we speak about, would have happened even 10%.
Yeah. No, because the ecosystem was built up. And then, the other thing that happened was that we created the fund of funds.
Yeah.
And that was privately managed. So, VCs and alternative investment funds could do their due diligence and select startups, but risk sharing was done by the fund of funds. So my view on that is that for deep tech really to take off in India now, we need fund of funds which would then share the risk with venture funds in a much bigger way.
The sovereign funds that other countries have.
Absolutely, which is what this 1 lakh crore research fund will now provide much more resources for deep tech fund. So, many unique things are happening in India. I mean, we are using technology to leapfrog. So, India has done the AI mission. It's provided, it's opened up its data through AI Kosh for its young startups.
APIs are available.
It's providing, what is required. You require data, You have talent in India. You're providing computing power to your students at low costs, much lower cost than United States or Europe. So if you're able to provide computing power and if you're able to open up data, you'll have Indian style. Look at Sarvam. I mean, they've made it multilingual. In India, you need multilingual models. You need low bandwidth models. To make AI really serve the purpose of improving learning outcomes, health outcomes, and that is what is happening. Or look at Bhashni. I mean, you are able to do a voiceover, fill up government forms, get access to government schemes. That is what is required in India.
Totally. So now let's move to NITI Aayog. So tell us, just for the layman here, what is the responsibility of NITI Aayog?
Yeah. NITI Aayog was a new institution set up by this government. It's very distinct from the Planning Commission of the earlier years. And Planning Commission used to provide financial outlays to ministries and to state governments, etc. That was like a controlled economy. So when this government came in, it did away with the Planning Commission and it said, there's no need to get into this financial outlays, but NITI Aayog was a think tank of the government. So what NITI Aayog did was to look at progressive things, which the ministries are caught in day-to-day working. You need somebody to think and plan way ahead. So amongst the many things it did, for instance, it did the Atal Innovation Mission, which supported tinkering labs. It supported incubation centers. It did the aspirational districts program for about 115 of the most backward districts of India, looking at outcomes. And it said that it made 115 districts compete on outcomes. And it said that the results are here. So every politician, every collector should know whether his district during that period, has it moved up or has it moved down? You're creating competition. So you are naming and shaming that district in terms of performance. Yeah. So, people will vote for those politicians who will do well, or the government will post those officers who will, so Prime Minister put a lot of stake in that aspirational district program.
Like every district has a stock ticker of its own, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. So it was all done on real-time data. Now that real-time data was not available when I was a collector. Data used to come in later, but now in India you get data on a real-time basis. And you can actually use that data to create competition. You can put it out. So it's a very different India. What was physically not possible is possible now. You can use AI, machine learning to take tests of millions and millions of students today. You can take the attendance of teachers if you want, or you want to put the tests on a daily basis. Through AI, you will put them out in public domain. Every student will know whether he's improving. That was all not possible earlier. The Department of Statistics data used to come after 5 years, 6 years after you've left. You don't know whether I worked very hard on education and health. I didn't know whether my district had moved up or gone down. But now, real time, you can find out. So it's all your students actually, on a minute-to-minute basis, will be able to know whether India is going up or coming down.
So what was your favorite part about working at the NITI Aayog? What do you remember? What's the most cherished memory?
Well, my cherished memory was that I was able to bring in a lot of young blood. So I brought in close to 500 young professionals in NITI Aayog. I said, I'm going to make it very different from any ministry, and these young people brought in a lot of energy, vibrancy, dynamism. But I think I pushed a lot of new areas of growth. For instance, I pushed for electric mobility in a very big way in the country, and I push for green hydrogen because I believe that India's growth must be there's a huge opportunity for India to technologically leapfrog, much like we've done with digital public infrastructure. We should do it for sustainability through green hydrogen. We should do it, while the rest of the world, United States still talking about refinery. India's strength is not in fossil fuel. You don't have fossil fuel. You import about 185 billion worth of fossil fuel. The solar is Indian. The sun energy is Indian. The wind condition is Indian. You should use solar and wind to become the champion of clean energy. And you should be able to then use renewable, which is what we are doing. We are already doing 260 gigawatt. Then you crack water to produce green hydrogen and become the cheapest producer of green hydrogen for the world. You can become the cheapest producer of ammonia in its liquid form to the rest of the world. You can become the biggest manufacturer of electrolyzer. You can, 75% of the vehicles in India are two-wheelers, three-wheelers. We must target that by 2030, all two-wheelers, three-wheelers must be electric. That's how you'll transform India. You should technologically leapfrog. Yeah.
No, we had Shri Gadkari Saab here a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned something very similar. And green hydrogen, I think he's also very passionate about.
Yeah.
And
but he's very passionate about ethanol also.
Ethanol also. We had a debate on that. Sir, talking about looking to the future, there's some things we have to concede that China did better. I was there last year, and honestly, the story there is moving a lot faster than India's. What can we learn from that country? For all its negatives, political issues, etc. Whereas there is strength.
So, two things we must learn from China. One is the size and scale of whatever we do. Just forget doing pilots. India should never do pilots. Put into the mind of your students that they have to be global players. Startups is not about doing pilots. Startup is about competing in the world. Whatever you do, compete in the world and become the best in the world and become a global champion. That's the first thing all your students must learn. They are here to compete in the world. The earning you will get from exports is 10x of what you will get in the domestic market. Totally. It's not the domestic market, it's the global market against which you are competing. So the size and scale, will come from cost competitiveness. Once you get the size and scale, you will bring down the cost, and therefore cost competitiveness is important. And what we learn from China today is size and scale, cost competitiveness. Number two, we are in the beginning of our urbanization phase. There's a lot to learn from China on urbanization. Whatever we do in India, drainage, sewage, solid waste, all this, new construction, with creating forests around these buildings, we must do the world's best. We have to do better than China in all these areas. Lee Kuan Yew created Singapore. Somebody congratulated him on creating Singapore. He said, don't give me any credit. He said, everything in the world has already been done. All that I did was I looked at the best examples in the world and I did them 15% better. I did 15% better on what they had already done. I picked up the best practices in the world. So everything in the world, there's nothing which has not been done. Pick up the best, do 15% better, you'll create a completely better India.
There's something to be said about investment in education, right? Our entire higher education budget, the government, is, I believe, 55,000 crores. That comes down to what? $6 billion essentially. So 6 billion was the budget of UPenn, where I went, of one university. That's how much they spent. Now, if you don't spend on education, don't spend on research, funding, grants, this is where, ChatGPT and LLMs and all, they came from the funding the government put into these universities in the US. So while it's great to have that vision that we want to cross China and we have to do all of these things, what does a 21-year-old or a 17-year-old sitting here, they'll tell you, sir, we don't have the kind of funds that these counterparts of ours in China and the US do. Cost competitiveness, sure, maybe we can be 30% cheaper, 60% cheaper. We can't be 99% cheaper. How do I defend this point to them?
Two things. One is greater outlay is necessary. I agree with you. But greater outlay cannot be the only reason for success. You must understand that in India, we must learn to deliver results. You can provide any amount of outlay. I can give you schemes and schemes and schemes where government has provided the outlay and those schemes have failed. The important thing is good governance, Whatever money you are providing to education, do you think are we delivering on that allocation?
Still don't think so.
Don't you think we should improve our learning outcomes? Don't you think we should improve our health outcomes? And why are you looking at only the outlay of the central government? Why are you not looking at the outlays of the state governments? Huge amount of resources are being put in. Why is it that our learning outcomes are low? Why is it that our health outcomes are low? Why is it that the class 10th student is not able to grasp his, science and maths and history of class 4th? So funds are important, but they are not absolute. What you need is delivery. What you need is passion. What you need is commitment. What you need is good governance. And it's important that the same resources must deliver you 100 times more. Yeah.
Got it.
So it's very important that people like you, how did you build this university? You didn't put money, you took the land on lease,
Yeah.
you've created a university where startups flourish, you give them practical methods, and similarly, we must learn the art of delivering 10x more with the money that we are putting in.
No, that's a great point, sir, actually.
Yeah.
Because our vision here is to become a global top 10 ranked university. Yeah. And India doesn't feature in top 10, top 50, top 100 even, right? Yeah. And we believe we're going to do it spending 1/100th of the money.
Exactly.
And that's possible, I guess, everywhere else as well.
No. So India gives you the size and scale of population. There are huge advantages. And India must learn to better govern. The delivery must improve. Why I'm saying this is that India is still growing at rates of 7.5%, 8% on just 50% of its population.
Yeah, the rest 50 is not
just
participating.
46% are wage earners in agriculture. Then you have people living on Manrega. The government's attempt is that this 50% must become from passive players into active players in the economy. And therefore, it's very important that these active players will drive India's growth story. So the best of India is still to come, but that would all require good governance. And to my mind, it's not money, it's better implementation, better outcomes. We need to, if you talk only about money, then they'll say, I've utilized this money at the end of the financial year. It'll be just
was it
financial
productive use or not?
What's the outcome you've achieved? What's the multiplier impact of that? Work against outcomes, and delivery. Define your outcome and achieve them. Then you will get a better result.
So governance on the parameters of outcomes.
Absolutely. India must become outcome oriented. We are today financial. Have we spent the money? Yes, we've spent the money, but what is the delivery?
You're saying even that 55,000 crores is not being productively used. So first use that properly and then we can think about investing more.
You can have a 100x multiplier impact of that.
No, honestly, sir, in the US, I see money getting wasted in healthcare.
Yeah.
For example, the processes there, the systems there, there's so many leakages. Even in education, I mean, US has a $1 trillion investment in education every year. That's their budget size. But I see it getting wasted day in and day out on stupid compliances that make no sense.
So my view is that, we should not replicate the model of, we should become a far more innovative society. We should become a far more dynamic society. But don't expect government to do everything. Indian society must be driven by the private sector. Government should act as a facilitator, as a good catalyst.
And so, you mentioned in one of your speeches that, South Korea, Japan, they all grew in a post-World War II era where things are very stable, right? Where you had the United Nations actually playing a role. And today we are living in an era of protectionism. You have Trump doing his stuff. You have Russia doing its own stuff, right? You had Brexit, right? So the world has also sort of changed completely.
Oh, it's totally radically changed because, when Japan was growing post-World War II or Korea grew between 70s and 90s or in recent time, China's scorching pace of growth of 3 decades. Yeah. All this happened when there was relative peace and stability in the world. The global value chains were growing, supply chains were growing, you could import and export, and China could export to the rest of the world. What is happening today? You have conflict in Europe, you have conflict in Middle East, you have conflict in Iran. So you're in the heart of conflicts. The institutions which enable the period of stability, United Nations, Security Council, now World Trade Organization later, which enabled free trade, all that have outlived their utility. They did not grow with times. And then global supply chains are totally broken with Trumpian tariffs all around. So you move from global value chains to trusted relationships and to bilateral and regional trade agreements. We are living in a very different world. But having said that, let me also tell you, to your viewers and to these young students, that they are very, very, very fortunate. They're very fortunate. They're living in an era which is going to be the biggest era of the rise of productivity. You know, machine learning, AI, data will make it the biggest era of productivity. And it's for them to utilize this opportunity to make India grow. You will never have this era again. This is an era which will be transformational in innovation, in medical research, in pharmacy, in pharmaceutical research, in biosimilars. I mean, the data, what was not possible earlier will happen now. And I think AI will be transformational. It's a general purpose technology which will change the world in a much bigger way than, industrialization did, much bigger way than electricity did, much bigger way than information technology did.
And to the knowledge economy, not just the...
Yeah. So it'll be transformational.
Already, sir, I mean, we have students, single individuals, who are running companies now, which are doing revenues, and they're single employee.
Yeah.
And they have a bunch of agents doing everything else.
Yeah.
I think we are only a few months away where we'll find our first unicorn, which is a single employee unicorn. And then you can literally automate now everything. Talk about mindsets for a second, if we can, right? Yeah. We have had this colonial hangover of a servitude mindset a little bit as a country, and it's now coming. We are coming out of it. How do we bring this entrepreneurial mindset, this job creator mindset, this builder mindset? That's a question that I deal with every day. How do I push my students away from placements and towards entrepreneurship? What are some of the ideas there, sir? Anything that you have reflected?
I mean, if I was living in today's world, I wouldn't have ever sat for the services. I would have done my own startup, So my view is that, the people who are going to be legends of the future are those who are going to disrupt the world in terms of, look at all the guys who are making it big today, from Elon Musk or Sam Altman, or to Anthropic founder Modi, and all these guys. They are legendary because at a very young age they've been able to do transformational work in each one of those areas. And to my mind, it's these kind of people who should be the role model, that at the age, whatever difference you have to make to the world, you should be able to make that difference to the world before you touch 40. The age of 30. 30.
I was thinking 40.
40 is too late. 40 is just too late. So, by the age of 30, you should be totally transformational for the world and for India.
Very clear, sir. Now, sir, I want to talk about the book that's come up, and I would love to invite your co-author.
Yeah, please.
And Siddharth, how did you come across, sir?
He just mentioned something about bringing 500 odd young people in NITI Aayog, and let's just say I was one of them. Okay. So that is how I came across Mr. Kant. And this intensity, I've been witnessing it for 6 years now. So I think in that sense, I've been very fortunate that I got the opportunity to work under the very best. I came back from the UK just so that I could work here at NITI Aayog and, with Sir, because I was totally inspired by his vision of transforming India, because that was just a year into him having taken over as CEO NITI Aayog, and even completing my master's at the London School of Economics, I was like, here's a place that I need to be. And I very vividly recall my interview with Sir as well.
What was it like? Tell us.
No, it was literally like a rapid fire 5-minute interview. What have you done? What do you want? Why did you come back? And then he was like, okay, fine. And I thought, well, with the 5-minute interview, I'm never going to get in until I got my call afterwards. But that's when I realized that
that you've converted.
yeah, I have. So, but yeah, very incredibly fortunate to have worked.
So those 6 years, tell us a story from those 6 years.
Well, those 6 years were, I think, the most incredible years of my life. I mean, I've seen what Sir tried to do in terms of building NITI Aayog as an institution and having so many different verticals. Literally, our morning, and I was telling this to somebody just the other day, in a 12-hour day, I mean, our days were far with Sir, who's always working, it's probably 14 hours, but your mornings would start with aspirational districts. A couple of hours later, you're talking about drone policies. A few hours later, you're talking about geospatial stuff. By 2 p.m., you've transitioned into green metals. By 4 p.m., it's probably green ammonia. By 6 p.m., it's electric vehicles. By 7 p.m., it's probably some meeting that's coming over. So essentially, it's like you're just thrown into the river and then you've got to swim to survive. But I think that's the very best way to actually learn. And I'm sure all of your students here, that's exactly what they're trying to figure out as well. But really fast-paced environment, being in the midst of some of the most transformative initiatives, that Sir had given us the opportunity to get involved with. And then again, after that, the G20, of course, which was again, again, incredibly lucky to have gone there, because probably the next, I mean, Sir just mentioned everybody should do it before 30. So luckily, I started working with Sir when I was 25. But if let's say I hadn't joined the G20, the next time India would have gotten G20 presidency, I would have probably been 50 years old. So again, so did not end up missing those two ballparks. But really, I would say that some of the people who worked in NITI Aayog during that phase have witnessed India's incredible transformation, and that sort of stays with you. But other than that, something about Sir also is that he's an incredible mentor to have. He would push you to the limits, but in a good way, because I think that's the best way to learn. But on the inside, he's also deeply caring. And in NITI Aayog, and I'm sure all of you have seen the Make in India, the share. Yeah. And so Sir is fondly called Tiger, by the way, within, that's within the government. So that's the other thing. Yeah, but incredible years.
Awesome. And tell us about this book. Give us a short gist of why, first of all, you thought about going down this road.
I think, Sir, when Sir and I had first had a discussion about this book, I think Sir, just as you rightly mentioned, that right now they're witnessing an incredible era of productivity. That is because think of AI, which is taking the world by storm, but what's equally taking the world by storm is climate change itself. Now, where these two storms collide, what happens at that nexus? And rather than thinking of it as something negative, can you really convert it into something positive? And how do you sort of make that positive is what this book is essentially about. How do you transform vicious cycles into virtuous ones? How do you convert threat multipliers into force multipliers? Because think about it, right? Today, people, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you travel by flight. You travel by flight yourself. If you would have noticed, the instances of turbulence in flights have increased. And
that is
actually because of climate change. So what we don't realize is we're used to the version of climate change where we've seen, a lone polar bear on a floating chunk of ice, somewhere in the Arctic and Antarctic. You've seen
greenhouse gases.
Exactly, right. But today it's right, besides, it's right around you. You witness the turbulence in planes. The same thing goes for World War I and II. You've seen it as those grainy black and white footages in your history textbooks. Today you see so many wars around you, whether it's Ukraine, Russia, whether it's what's happening in Iran right now, or otherwise. So we are witnessing all of what we had read about. I mean, people read about Black Death. Who thought we would all live through a pandemic, right? So the challenge with climate change is that we think of it as only something that causes destruction to human lives, etc. But it even affects technology. During the heat waves in London, Oracle and Google data centers got knocked offline. And today, can you imagine a world without AI? Your chat GPTs of the world will get stuck if your data centers get knocked out.
So AI currently consumes more energy than Japan and some of the countries, right? I heard in one of your speeches. So it definitely is an energy guzzler. And for India, we have to move. We are still on coal, 80-85%. We have to move into solar if this has to be done sustainably. So do you think we are on the right track, or do we need a complete shift in the strategy?
No, we are on the right track, because India is the only country which is about close to about 50% of its energy is non-fossil fuel now. We have over 260 gigawatt. Our target is about 500 gigawatt. My view is that we should try and exceed that to about 700 gigawatt. But then renewable energy is not adequate. Important thing is that you still have a lot of potential of wind energy, offshore energy, wind. We should be able to push that to its limit. And because that's all Indian. The offshore wind is Indian. India is climatically blessed.
Native Indian.
Yeah, India is climatically blessed. No other country has those climatic conditions like India has.
Flat land.
Yeah, and so you have to cut down. What the present Gulf crisis shows is that you should cut down on your fossil fuel import. Use the strength of your sun, use the strength of your wind to produce non-fossil fuel energy, and then to be able to make it 24/7, build up storage either through battery storage or pump storage. And pump storage has a longer life, so you need to do that. But more important than that, you're getting so much of data centers in India, so you'll need to strengthen your transmission, your grid. You need to be able, today what is happening is you're producing renewable in Gujarat and Rajasthan, you're not able to lift it because of transmission lines. So you need to upgrade that. You need to bring in AI into the management of transmission. You need to bring AI into
metering,
into cooling systems, etc. Now, so AI can be transformational. While AI is a guzzler, AI, when driven with renewable energy, with wind, and using the power of AI to manage many of the climatic conditions, it can be transformational for the world.
So is there any country that you think is doing a good job at this right now?
Well,
that we can look as a model?
Well, there are several countries which are, I mean, the important thing is that several companies are doing innovative work in terms of their data centers. But as a country, I think India should be the leader in the world. India has the advantage of having one grid across the country. No other country has one grid. Europe doesn't have it. United States doesn't have it. You have one grid. You need to smarten it up. India has the climatic conditions. You've already done 260 gigawatt of renewable energy. But last year we did 50 gigawatt. You know how much did China did? 350 gigawatt of renewable. So we should,
7 times us,
so we should just champion that. We should become the biggest champion of renewable energy. We should become the biggest champion of battery storage.
Is the intent and the strategy there?
Yeah, intent and strategy.
That is in place, right?
Everything else will follow. Our strategy is very clear. We put out auctions. We get the private sector. And important thing is that India has been able to do it through the private enterprise. And the private enterprise has been able to attract private equity from across the world. So all these new companies which have grown, Greenko, Renew, etc., is all on private equity. Yeah. So that's a great story for India. What India has achieved is remarkable.
No, I think the India story is being told around the world. But small microcosm. In my city, we had net metering.
Yeah.
Until a couple years ago. And suddenly they stopped net metering.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's taking 2 steps ahead and then 3 steps backwards.
So, I mean, one of the good things that happened, PM has pushed this solar rooftop, Surya Ghar scheme. It's important that while we do renewables, we also run our houses on solar rooftops. And solar rooftop will push for net metering. Because whatever excess you produce has to be bought over by the DISCOM, and DISCOM has to pay for that or bank it and give it back to the consumer when he needs it. That's important. So I think what the Surya Ghar scheme will do is to build up this ability to do net metering around India. That's important.
Yeah, but sometimes it just feels that while the macro strategy is in place, the vision is there. Sometimes as it translates down
in some states,
it just sort of pushes you back. Yeah. On that note, how should one read this book? Right. I'm going to make this a required reading in some of our courses.
So read it like a story book because it has characters, it has protagonists in this, and it has it's a simple read. It's not a technical book. It's a book for young people. It's a book for common person. Read it almost like a story book around you, both from the perspective of climate and from the perspective of artificial.
And do I have to be a climate entrepreneur or someone in the industry to read this, to make sense of this?
But once you finish reading the book, I'm absolutely sure that you will become a startup entrepreneur.
In climate or?
Both. In climate and in AI. Yeah.
I think the beauty of the book is, like Sir said, that it's a book for the people and it's a book of the people in the sense that there are characters that reflect lived realities. So as you read through that, there are 3-4 wonderful characters in this book. Asha, who's a girl from the global south. Sophie, who's a girl from the global north. And then there is a young, sort of techie who works along with the mayor of his town to figure out how you can champion the AI climate nexus. I normally don't reveal this, but maybe it had something to do with this equation as well. So I've tried to mirror that in the book itself. But you can read the book as a whole, but you could equally just pick up any chapter, and just start reading that directly. Instead, if let's say you're interested in green data centers, you can pick up the chapter on green data centers and you can read it directly. And I think the beauty is that
a storybook and a textbook almost, it goes
because some
together.
of the use cases there, including the 3 chapters which go into the use cases of AI for climate resilience, mitigation, and adaptation. And those are some of the most unique use cases that you will find from across the world. Right from how, let's say, when I was at Google, I was fortunate that we ended up working with my team, we created a solution where, well, air quality, the challenge is that, you don't have enough air quality monitoring stations or they're very expensive to deal with. We ended up funding 2 local startups who went and installed these air quality sensors on buses. Now, because buses make thousands of rounds of the city, you've got thousands of data points that are coming in real time. But the beauty is that, and that's the beauty of AI, that you can then sort of impose this with, weather, wind directions, etc. And you can get a hyper-local air quality level. For the entire country. So today, if you go to Google Maps and if you click the layer, and you'll see an air quality layer for India, which is very unique to India, which is running because of that. But the same thing you can also realize, for instance, your students, let's say if somebody wants to work on source apportionment for, let's say, emissions from power plant, the same use case can actually be extended to figure out what are the emissions from the nearby power plants that are coming.
I'll give you one problem statement. We have a climate elective that we teach here. And guess, if we have 60 seats in that elective, how many fill up?
120.
About 20, right? So it's still not something that people see value in for some reason, right? It fails me, but how do I now push this topic, push this conversation? EVS was made compulsory when I was in school, right? And I've grown up knowing at least what whaling is and what greenhouse gases are, and et cetera, right? It's at least given me a little bit of sensitivity.
So if you want those 20 to go up to 200, combine artificial intelligence with climate, and you will have converge both together.
It's a great point.
And suddenly you will have the whole world joining you, because they'll get a great idea on sustainability, which will be critical. And let me tell you, sustainability is going to get back into the most trendy subject and the most fashionable subject 3 years down the line, 2.5 years down the line.
Even in India. I mean, it's always a conversation in Europe.
In Europe, but Trump has taken it a backseat. But 2.5 years down the line, it'll be the most critical thing in the world again. And AI is very important right now. But for AI to make an impact, it's very important that we do
all of this taken care of. Got it.
Sustainability is going to be critical. And therefore, this convergence of AI with climate is very, very important. And how to do AI, which is the most transformative force in the world, but to do it in a sustainable manner, and how the power of AI can be leveraged to ensure that we are living in a more sustainable world of tomorrow is very critical.
I just say, of course, besides what Mr. Kant said, I think the interesting thing here is what powers AI, right? Compute, where does compute reside? Data centers. Today, you're reaching a situation where green energy is cheaper than conventional energy. What is essentially the cost of a data center? It's essentially predominantly energy and cooling. So if you've got youngsters over here who are building AI models and they want to actually sit down and market those, whether they want to tokenize them or whether it's GPU per hour, can you do it without green energy, which is cheaper than conventional energy today? So that is the kind of ideas you need to put out there.
Tourism as a sector for startups, we have to think about. You don't need $1 million to start.
Not at all.
A guide business or an experiences business in any part of the country, and you can do it anywhere, especially in smaller cities, I believe.
And start with your own house, but then create a business model for that entire colony.
Exactly.
And then spread it over.
Talk to your landlords, talk to the owner of the apartment building.
And everybody wants to cut down on energy costs. That's important. So that is the key. How do you generate renewable? How do you store it? How do you earn money out of it? Create a business model out of it? Starting from your own house, you can take it to the entire colony where you live.
I mean, from the civil engineering to the batteries to the actual solar panel, it has to be. I mean, I don't know, do we import our solar panels or do we build them now ourselves?
We're building now, but we import a lot of solar panels. We started manufacturing now, but we are. So, some of these sectors are very critical as you go in for electric vehicles. You're an importer of battery. I mean, we must understand this, that 90% of the batteries in the world are being supplied by China. 78% of the solar panels are being supplied by China. 65% of the wind is being supplied by China. So if China is a major supplier, it's important for us to do manufacturing in these sectors. But it's also important to understand that it's not the critical mineral which is important, but the processing technology of the critical mineral is very important. And therefore, in the years to come, our ability to do processing of critical minerals are available in plenty in the world. Nickel is available, lithium is available, cobalt is available, but the processing technology of that is unavailable.
China में भी तो इन्हीं students ने 10 साल पहले ये companies बनाई होंगी, right?
No, the Chinese students have been transformational because they are the ones who got into all cutting edge areas of growth. They enabled China to do the technological leapfrogging. It's all young students when you go and meet them. And therefore, these students sitting here are going to be the ones who will transform India in the coming years.
No, absolutely, guys. You have to think about energy as a sector. We don't talk. So I think we are also at fault because we don't talk about it enough at Masters Union. Right? We, I think, focus so much on D2C and cloud kitchens and brands and consumer products. We completely ignore deep tech.
Yeah.
And
so my view is that if India is to leapfrog in the coming years, we've done the digital technology bit. We've benefited from digital public infrastructure. The next big leapfrogging has to happen in deep tech sectors. It has to be in areas of energy. It's very, very critical. Because, you can't remain an importer of critical minerals. You can't remain an importer of fossil fuel. You can't be dependent on one country. The world can't be dependent on one country for many of these areas.
Another pushback I get from students when I try to push them in this direction is that, Pratham, you need so much capital to do any of these businesses, right? And here, in India, while private equity is there and you can get $100 million investment, but to get that first $100,000 investment, that's where the true gap is. I'm seeing so many nodding heads now, right? Suddenly, what do I tell them, right? How do they find that capital? I know capital is not the only thing, but for what we are speaking in terms of deep tech and climate, I think tourism, I understand you don't need too much investment, you can get started. But with these two sectors, how do we do the first 0 to 1?
So my suggestion is that once you've created a business model out of them, there are many funders available today. There are many family houses. One of the great things that's happening in India today is that large company, family houses today have started supporting startups. I've been saying that actually Indian pension funds, insurance companies, all should support startups. Indian startups should not be dependent on foreign capital. They should be dependent on Indian capital. But that started to happen. And a number of startups with great business model, great ideas, will get supported.
Look at family business houses, guys. I think people have started converting their gold into startup investments a little bit.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we'll open it up to Q&A with the audience, all right? Because we are short on time, so we'll start with you.
I come from Maharashtra, and I've been working with farmers ever since I was like 7 years old, just going with my dad. He serves there as a deputy collector, and what we could realize is that Maharashtra has immense potential in agro-tourism. That is one. And second is about carbon credits. I am being backed by 50,000 plus farmers, out of which, when I visited their land, 10,000 plus farmers have the ability to create insane quality carbon credits, right? Out of which around 5 to 7,000 are ready for a collateral, a deal kind of a thing for which we can deal with them for carbon credit purpose. But where I lack is that I need proper mentorship in order to understand how do I trade those carbon credits and make it or convert it into a sustainable business model. For that, I need to understand how do we export those carbon credits, or how do we make a kind of blockchain technology otherwise, which we can deal through it. So could you please help me understand that part?
So what I'll do is I'll get the best expert in this field to come and interact with all of you on carbon credit. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So there's a lady called Mahua Acharya who worked for many years on carbon credit. She worked with me on transport, on procuring a lot of buses when we were pooling in the demand. She's an expert on carbon credit. And my suggestion to you is that I'll get her to take a class with all those interested in the field of carbon credit. But what you're telling me is a great idea, because Maharashtra is a great place where, in places like Nasik, etc., a lot of actually tourism is taken off, farm tourism is taken off.
What is farm tourism? Sorry.
So there are two things actually. Farm tourism. So if we take consideration, Jay, if he's here, right? He's from Nashik, and Nashik has become the hub of exports of good quality material, like let's say vegetables and fruits and everything.
And wine.
Yeah, and wine, newly added. So like Maharashtra has immense potential of agritourism because it has the highest number of farmers who are actually into farmlands, right?
Agri exports or tourism?
All these places have, for farmers to become wealthy and to raise their per capita earning, it's very important to move into value-added agriculture. That is, they need to get into floriculture, horticulture, dairy, they get into making wine and also promoting their region as a great experience for tourism. So many of these areas are also promoting, great high value added tourism by going and living in the farm area.
Such a great I learned something new from my students. It's awesome.
So there is one more thing. May I continue? Thank you. So I am in talks with few of the deputy collectors and collectors from Maharashtra, especially from Marathwada region. So Nashik has done an extremely amazing job at developing an ecosystem where they have connected farmers and entrepreneurs with export hubs, right? But second big opportunity that we can see is most of the people are extremely excited to visiting, or I would rather say exploring how this organic food world works. So this opportunity which I can recognize is a ecosystem or a plan that we can build around this organic agricultural agro-tourism part. Again, for which I lack mentorship in understanding how do we develop that ecosystem. Because we have the resources, we have the people, we have the investments. But planning that out is somewhere we are lacking in. So could you please guide me?
So my suggestion on that is that there are a number of people who are today entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, who are actually doing organic farming and are very successful. So we can give you a list of 5 top-class young entrepreneurs who are successful in terms of creating the distribution retail network and who are supplying to both 5-star hotels, and they're supplying to all top retail outlets, maintaining the quality and consistency of their product. And what you should do is to really look at their example and see how they became successful so that you can replicate that model.
Thank you very much, sir.
Just on that note, one more thing I'd say, because you mentioned carbon credits, to all over here, I'd strongly encourage you to go look up the India Energy Stack, which is still being worked upon. But if you actually are able to create startup ideas around India Energy Stack, I think you will build some of the most successful startups.
What is the India Energy Stack?
Well, it's like India's digital public infrastructure for energy. Just as you created the UPI as a payments backbone, you're doing something similar with the energy ecosystem as well, where today it will enable a farmer sitting in, let's say, the Marathwada region to be able to trade energy with, let's say, a Siemens or a Reliance. And that's one part of it. The second part of it is on the distribution side, because as Mr. Kant also spoke about, with so many data centers, you mentioned they're giant guzzlers, you would also need to stabilize the grid, right? You need to stabilize the energy grid. So this energy stack will actually democratize all the data related to India's grid, whether it's transmission, whether it's distribution.
Where it's being used, how much is being invested.
All of those data points in front of you, and exactly those data points are where you can sort of innovate, just as the Zerodhas and the Digis and Accos were built on top of the payments
all the meters are being digitized, basically. And so
that's one part of it, yeah. But everything else, right from your transformers to the relays that are installed in substations, everything.
Got it.
Good afternoon, sir. I actually had a question written for you, but I would like to pick up something that you mentioned on about meters and how they might not be, part of the entire ecosystem because of elections. Just a reference from a movie. So in Interstellar, people decide to think about the future, decades into the future, rather than focusing on today's problems, which was the crops in that scenario. When you were focusing on larger reforms, how were you able to shift the mindset from short-term goals to a long-term national bet?
So, what was our vision? Our vision was, or let's look at our vision now. Our vision now is to take India from a 4 trillion to a 30+ trillion dollar economy. That's what the vision of the Prime Minister has laid before the country. Viksit Bharat is what? 30+ trillion dollar economy. Large picture is what? That you have to take your GDP 8x bigger, your per capita income 9x bigger. Your manufacturing has to be 16x bigger. But for 16x bigger, you need millions and millions of young entrepreneurs. That can't be done by existing companies. You need disruption. And disruption happens only with young startups, because the established companies become all status quoist. They all are status quoist. Without disruption coming from startups, India can never be transformational, and India can never match up to the kind of technological transformation that is taking place in the world. The part of the reason why we didn't become a manufacturing nation is because we were not technology focused, and we were not riding the wave of new technology. For the first time, we've gone into semiconductors. For the first time, we are doing the AI mission. For the first time, we are doing the quantum computing mission. For the first time, we are doing the semiconductor mission. For the first time, we are talking about green hydrogen. All these are critical areas. Each one of them opens up vast opportunities for you. So, small steps, small successful young entrepreneurs will make the difference to India becoming a $30+ trillion economy.
I would like to talk about the aspirational districts project. So, there were 112 districts, underprivileged districts, which were selected, and they were real-time data which they were tracked upon. And I learned that there were 49 KPIs on which they were ranked. So we know about the KPIs for different corporates, startups and everything, but how are KPIs different for villages? What are the KPIs for villages basically?
So two things one must know. That when we started the program, we selected 115 districts in India. West Bengal did not participate, so 112 districts. 112 districts were competing on outcomes. So whether it was health, education, nutrition, agriculture, those outcomes were defined. Clearly defined outcomes. Those outcomes, if you read any piece on aspirational districts, you go to KPIs, outcomes, just Google and you'll get all the outcomes of different areas. Health, nutrition, education, stunting has to come down, wasting has to come down to this %, etc. So they were defined. And you are getting data on a real-time basis. But the competition was on delta, the change during the course of the month. If you don't do it on delta, then every time Kerala will keep coming number one, because historically it's been number one. The important thing is to capture the change during the course of the month. Keep competing month by month by month by month. For instance, the collector of Bijapur came to me. By the time he started from Bijapur, when he came to me and he says, "Sir, I'm coming 5th, but I'll manage to come 2nd. By the time I leave, there were still 6 days left." By the time, then I opened my computer to check up. By the time he had left Bijapur and reached Delhi, he had moved from 5th position to 8th position. The competition was so intense, every collector was competing. So if you want to improve in India, make everyone compete. Competition is the key to success. That's what I believe. If everybody is competing and if data and performance of everyone is put out, then all of you will improve. All of you must compete with each other. Data must be put out, and high intensity data must be put out. Politicians, MLA must compete, collector must compete, district education officer must compete. They should all know what they have to achieve. First of all, in government, nobody knows what he has to achieve. So define what he has to achieve. The targets, outcomes are informed, data is taken, results are put out in public domain, and then you start naming and shaming them. So those who come number one are given, the collector is given 5 crores of rupees additional for that month to transform his district on whatever he wants to do. And those who don't achieve are told that you are the worst performing district. And therefore the chief minister pulls up that collector. So name and shame them. The politicians are named and shamed by putting that data in public domain. People must know that this politician is not delivering. That is the model I followed, at least, and that is the model I believe in. I don't believe in not having outcomes. I don't believe in not performing to data. I believe in hard data. I believe in real-time performance. I believe in outcomes, and I believe in creating competition, and I believe in naming and shaming. That was the model of aspects.
So gamification is applied to government as well.
Yeah.
We have finally a course in gamification. We should add this chapter. Last question, please. Last question. Sorry, go ahead.
I have 2 parts of the questions. First of all, I want to ask about the how do we solve the travel and sustainability? Like, you are asking people to come, but how are we on the surface level, like entrepreneurs, how are we supposed to push the governments to do that on the surface level? First question. Second question, travel and sustainability doesn't go hand in hand. Like, we see people coming, but we are not able to eliminate a few aspects of usage of plastic, for suppose. Like, that kind of things are not, like, they're not gone totally. So I want to ask, how do we, and again, how can we make it accessible?
So two things. First and foremost, a city which has got garbage, which has got filth, which has got bad air quality, which has got, lack of proper toilets, etc., you'll never get tourists. Delhi, the peak season used to be November to January. If it's got bad quality air, why should anybody come into Delhi? So a lot of that challenge is not merely because, and I kept stressing this point about good governance. The failure in India in several parts is because of poor governance, whether it's municipal governance. But a lot of that blame lies on the citizens of India. Delhi is the most educated city in the world. The households don't even do segregation of waste. So my view is that citizens must take responsibility, they must raise voice, they must take leadership in several, if Indore could transform itself within a period of 3 years from the filthiest to the cleanest city, where there's so much of sense of pride, nobody can throw it.
What worked in Indore?
Indore, there was good leadership of the municipal commissioner, but there was a great sense of pride amongst the people. And today you can't throw a litter. If you throw a litter, not only are you penalized very heavily, but the other people will beat you up. So that's great. Surat, same thing happened. Mysore, same thing happened. So if 3 cities of India can do it pretty well, the other cities of India can also do
conviction
it.
on the part of the municipal commissioner.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one. How did he change the behavior of the people?
He asked all the colonies, he asked all the citizens to be active. It can't be done without community participation. So community participation was the key into success of Indore. It's consistently been the #1 city. And therefore,
was there some gamification there as well?
No.
Best colony, cleanest.
No, so there is a competition where Indore has been coming. But if you go to Indore, it's totally clean and tidy. So that's my belief. The citizens and the community plays a key role in all this.
But how do we unlock that behavior? This is one municipal commissioner in Indore who was...
No, it's been done in Surat as well.
But 555 districts,
Yeah.
How do we take it to that?
So there are many other things I'll tell you. They mechanize their cleaning. They use they produce methane gas. Methane gas is used to run the local buses. A huge amount of it's a complete case study which can be presented here. Siddharth can come and make a presentation on Indore City, or we can get the municipal commissioner to come and make a presentation.
That would be, That would be
on
awesome.
how Indore was transformed as a city.
On that note, sir, thank you so much.